Do you want to know how to build a computer? Well, it's not going to be the most glamorous video ever, but I will give you the nuts and the bolts and show you how to get started if you are a beginner. Good morning. Okay, today it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. I'm going to show you the basics of building a computer. Plenty of times people come into the shop and they'll have a computer that they just paid a bunch of money for and it's not even built, it's halfway done, but they come to me and say, I don't know why, but I've built it and it's my first time, and when I push the power button nothing happens. So I'm going to go through the basics of building a computer. Now I'm not going to go through all possible contingencies, just a basic build, and this one here is going to be an AMD build, Ryzen chip there, and it's going to be regular fan cooled and just one stick of RAM, and then just show you some basic things. That's not going to include installing Windows, just the actual physical hardware build. I'm going to do a second video along these lines, but it's going to be for an Intel based chip with liquid cooling and a gamer, so it's going to have a gamer video card type thing and all that. So this is just basically an intro to building your first computer. So if you're having any doubts about it, you can watch this, and this will help steer you around some of the problems you may have. Okay? All right. So first, we'll go with this. This is my board. This is just a, I guess you would call it a mini ATX form factor. They have ATX boards that are about that much longer, and this has the power here, CPU power. It's got the AM4 socket and 2 slots for RAM. This is DDR4 RAM. So to start with, on this particular build, okay, first thing we want to do is we want to put the CPU in, and a lot of times people will take their case and they'll put this in there and they'll build inside the case. Doesn't make sense. Build outside the case, this part, okay? So first thing, for an AM4 socket and most every other type of processor, you almost always have some sort of lever to pull up. In this case, it's this right here. Okay. Now, looking at this, the pin pattern here, you'll notice that you've got diagonal here, diagonal here, diagonal here, but you've got a right angle right here. See, it goes this way like this. Well, you want to match that up with the chip, okay? So on the bottom of the chip, they actually have, right where that is, you've got an arrow. So you've got diagonal pins, but then you've got the, right there. That arrow will tell you that needs to go here, okay? So you pop it in there, don't force it, just kind of sit it in there. I usually will kind of rock it back and forth to make sure it's in there good, and then I'll push this down. Okay, that's your CPU in place. Second thing, we'll turn it this way. This is your RAM memory. Okay, and if you notice that this has a slot in the middle, and it's got 2 of these, but one of them is longer. This one here. Okay, so you want to look at your board, and you kind of want to see where that falls here, where it's that little like spot in the middle, sorry, where this goes, you know what I mean. So where this is in the middle, you want to line it up. So one way to do that is just to set it like this in the slot to see if that matches up, and in this case it seems to match up just fine. But if you turn it around, you see where the middle pin is and where the little notch does not fit. So this will go in this way. Also, if you're doing several of these, let's say there's 4 slots and you're doing 4 sticks of RAM or even 2 sticks of RAM, you're going to want to just put them in the same way. You don't need to do this with each one. Just get one of them in, and the other ones, for instance, you'll notice that the label is on this side, right? So when you put the others in, just make sure the label is facing the same way. All right. And in this one, just one stick, we're just going to put it in the first slot. And when you put it in there, let it fall down, and then 2 clicks, one on each side. You can't really hurt this if you're putting it in the right way. If you put it in the wrong way, it's gonna do this. Okay, so you're gonna put it in, and you can actually just snap one in first, and then the other one. Doesn't matter. Okay. Now, the third thing is the fan that goes on top of here. If you buy a fan new, like this one is, okay, you're gonna see that there's this thermal compound on the bottom. That's fine. I don't really recommend putting tons of it on here. This is actually a used chip, and you can see that somebody just caked it with that. Brand new board, but they put all sorts of stuff on this. Okay, so this particular AM4, some of them have a hook like this that goes on here and here. The newer ones, they have these screws right here. Okay, so you're going to want to actually take these 4 screws out. So I'll show you the, grab another one and I'll show you the example. Okay, so the other way, like I mentioned, has these on there. This is kind of a big fat fan here. But if you are using a fan with these on here, what you want to do is, this has like a little cam on it. So it basically goes down, and then you do this to tighten it. See how it comes up? When you seat this part, you're going to do this, and it's going to pull it up, which will tighten it. Okay, so if you're using this type of one, it can go either way, doesn't matter. But what you want to do is you want to put it on here. This is what you're going to hook it to. Put it on there like so, and it's kind of hard to see, but let's see if I can angle it a little bit better. All right, so it's on here, and then I'm going to take this and try to put it on there so this can, there it goes, so it can latch onto that. Then I bring it over here like so, put it on there like that, and this is that cam I said that will tighten it like that. Now this thing is on there really good. In this case, I'm not using this. I'm going to use the other kind, which will actually screw onto the board. Okay, I kind of prefer these because they're not so gigantic. All right, so taking these 4 screws out, one there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is going to remove the old school or the older type of connector or fastener, I should say, is probably a better word. All right, there we go. So that's out. Now we can put this on here, and I like to do it in a way where I don't have, this is where the CPU fan hooks to this particular board. I don't like to have a lot of excess wire or excess, in other words, I wouldn't want to do it like this because it's just a bunch of wire hanging out there. So you can do it like this and run it this way. And sometimes you have to change it around each way to make sure that that these don't get in the way of, like, these capacitors, for instance. So let me see. It looks like this particular fan, it looks like it has to go there because it didn't want to seat correctly the other way. By the way, this can come out, so see what I mean? So it's not fastened in many cases. Sometimes it has double-sided tape, but we're just gonna set it down there like that. So we'll put it on there like this in this case because that's where it fits better. All right, and then you'll want to do these a little at a time until all 4 are fastened. Turning it won't help. you have to push it down and then turn it so it latches on to that connector. If you just turn it, you'll be here all day. You push it down, see? You'll hear the noise change a little bit when it starts to be threaded in there. Okay, that one's finished. You don't want to crank it down too hard, just finger tight is fine, because all it's doing is holding on to that top of that CPU. Okay, and fourth one, done. All right, that is the board put together. This is why it's easier to do it on the bench like this. Okay. All right, also, you want to hook this up right here. You'll see right there it says CPU fan. Sometimes it'll have a second one that says CPU OPT or optional. That is for, you know, one of the bigger fan heat sinks that has 2 fans on it, and that could also be for something else, another fan, doesn't really matter. I like to tuck the wires away if I can, so I'm just going to kind of stick it like that. There we go. And that's ready to go. So let me grab the case and we will move on to that portion of this. Okay, so here is the case that we're using. It's just a micro ATX for the smaller boards. I don't like to overbuild. If my case is massive and my board is tiny, then it kind of makes just a lot of wasted space. So this is the rear fan right here, and then you've got all sorts of connectors. I'll explain them to you here. So we've got this blue one. This is USB 3.0, and that is to the front of or top of the computer where you see the blue USBs. That's 3.0. So that's going to the front of the computer. This one here says HD audio. That's kind of hard to really see. Anyway, that's your audio. It's kind of a outdated thing, but you'll notice a difference. They look the same if you cover up the words, but then when you look here, see if I can show you a little bit better on this camera. If you look at these, one of them's got the blank pin here, and this other one has it in a different spot. So that's how you know which is which. Okay. All right. And then you've got, let me separate these a little bit, make it easier to work with. Let's say, then this is your front panel, they call it. And you've got several things here. Okay. So this one here you'll see is hard drive LED. So when your computer's doing something, it's blinking. That is your hard drive LED. Then you've got your power LED. This one is separated. The reason why is because back in the day, this used to be 3 pins wide, and it would have an empty pin in the middle. It would be like that. But then some boards would use them next to each other. Some of them would be the 3 pins. That's why they separated this one. But it doesn't really matter. Then you got your reset switch. That's for if your computer freezes up, you can push this button on the top here in this particular case, and it'll reset the computer. And then lastly is your power switch. Okay. I am going to actually put this right here because this is an important thing here. So I'm going to actually put these on here first, just like this. All right. Usually, somewhere on the bottom right of the board is where you're going to see something will say like F panel, front panel, something like that. On this particular board, it's a little further over. It's right here, but it says F panel. And a lot of times too, you'll see this little diagram here showing you what goes where. But in almost every case, it's the same. Okay. While I have it up here, this is your USB 3.0. It goes here. and you'll notice it's got a key on the top that goes in that empty spot right there. So this would go like this, okay? The other ones here, your USB, trying to get it where you can see. You've got USB here, and you got something called COM, which is like a COM port. But this is what we're going to worry about. Front USB 2, front USB 1. And see how there's that empty, that blank one there. That would coincide with that one missing pin. So this right here would go on just like that. Okay? You can't put it in wrong. It's where that one pin is missing is where is the blocked one there. And then the audio, F audio right here. See how it's missing one pin there? That coincides with the blank or whatever there. So this one would go just like that. So that's those two. We will reconnect those later. You don't want to put those on while this is out. I'm just showing you for this purpose, because if you had all these connected and you tried to put everything in there, it could cause some problems. Okay? It's just more of a pain. All right. So looking at this, see if I can show you. All right. So we have almost all computers the same exact way. You've got 8 pins, these 8 pins right here. We're not going to concern ourselves with this 5th pin over here and this blank one or missing one here. We're going to concern ourselves with these 8. And it's almost exactly the same way. See if I can get real close here. All right. All right. So it's kind of hard to tell you. But anyway. So the very top right one, this one here, is always the power button. Okay. The one below that, these two right here, is the reset switch, the reset button. Now, over here, these left two, here and here, that is your LEDs, okay? And LED stands for light emitting diode, and by default, by definition, diode only lets power go one way. This is why on these you will see positive and negative on both of these, okay? And so the way it works is, it's hard to see here, but just to let you know, the positive is always this side, okay? So the bottom one is the hard drive LED, always goes on the bottom. Just refer to your manual for your motherboard, or look at a diagram that's with it here. But this one here is hard drive, plus and minus. The plus is this side, okay? So that wire will go that way. So we put it plus and minus, just like that, okay? And this top one, that's the loose ones right here, okay? That's your power LED, positive and negative. So the positive will go on that side. So the easiest way to do this is just to hold them together like that and kind of, oh, I put them in the wrong one. I meant to go here. All right, so those will go right here, these two. And like I say, this is almost always standardized now, but once you do it one time, it's easy. Okay, now the ones next to it, reset switch goes on the bottom, power switch goes on the top. So I'm just gonna move those over. And the top one, those top 2 pins, power switch, bottom 2 pins, reset switch. Now, these 2 switches are simply 2 wires connecting together. There's no positive, there's no negative. So you can put these on any way you like. These ones have to have positive and negative, okay? And it's hard to see on this board, but it does say positive and negative right here. All right, so that's how those 4 go on there. All right, I'm gonna disconnect them for now. And we're going to get into how to put the board in the case. Okay, so I'm going to move all these wires out of the way to show you what it looks like in here. Now, you may see that there are You got this one here. These are called standoffs, okay? They hold the board off of this metal, and it also grounds it. But anyway, it holds it away from that metal, and it makes it so this back part lines up with these back components right here, okay? Now, first thing you want to do, you have a back plate. You should have a back plate with your device, with your motherboard, and you want to see which way it goes. Okay, you want to line it up. You can go this way, you can go this way, but in this particular way, it's this like that. Just make sure to line everything up just like that. Okay, so we know that this thing goes like this in the case. So what we're going to do is, this is where it goes, okay? This little edge right here is going to line up with this right here, just like that. And then what you do is you push right here and snap it in place. It's kind of hard to do from this angle, but there we go. I'm going to do it from the inside here. There we go. And it's important, there you go, that you snap this in, because if you try to put the board in and that is not correctly seated, then the board will not line up with these standoffs. Now, each motherboard, or sorry, each case will come with hardware, a little bag usually like this, okay? So, if you look at your board, you're going to see, in this case, 6 holes, okay? You've got one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. These are really standard, especially these top 4, okay? Larger boards, they may have one out here, they have one out here, and they may have this one here is offset. Notice that this one is at the bottom edge, this one's up a little bit. A lot of times the larger boards will have 3 of these and they'll be lined up. Boom, 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 like out here, okay? In this particular one, it's the one that goes up here, the one that goes a little below. So if you look here, you will see the top one, then this one, and then you'll see the next one here, and this one here. And this is where the standardization comes in. You will see this one here, and then this one is below it. Very, very careful, because you'll notice that this one will do either one of these, okay? But this one is the one that's below it, see? It goes up and then down. This one's on the edge, it's lower. If you put it in here, this little standoff, if you screw it into here, you could actually fry the board, short something out. Okay, so we know that all 6 of these are already in place, because this is designed for a micro or micro ATX platform, which is what this board is. All right, so first thing we're going to do, you don't need to open up this hardware yet, because all 6 standoffs are already in place. All right, so you just put it in here like this, move all the stuff out of the way, and then the easiest way to do this is to feed it until this right here fits in place. Let's switch to a different view here. There we go. So we want to put this board there, and you got to play around with it and you'll get it to line up. There it goes. So now it should be the case that all of these holes line up. Okay, you may have to move it up and down. Right there is where this particular board is lined up. I can see all 6 lined up. Okay, now as far as this goes, One of the big mistakes people make is they will put the wrong types of screws. This will have two different screw types, thread types, I should say, in here. And if you do the wrong one, it will start to turn because it'll cross thread and it'll start to turn the whole thing, and then you could end up having it stripped. And I'd say that when people bring these in to me, this is the one mistake that's made the most by far, is that they use the wrong screws for the standoffs. And then they end up getting frustrated and giving up, and only 2 or 3 screws are holding the whole thing in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out all of this stuff here and show you the difference between the two different screws. All right, so we have this. Let me go over here. Sorry. All right, we have the standoff right here. Okay, this is what screws into the back of this and holds it up like this so the board goes in here. Now, line up if you're doing something different and you need more of these. They're already in the bag. So you want to make sure to have those correctly on there and then line it up to make sure that you can see all of them, because one in the wrong place will short your board or can cause problems. Okay, so we have 2 different types of screws. I will show you. We have a coarse and a fine thread. Which one goes in here? You want to make sure you know in advance. So take one of these loose ones and then put that screw in there and see if it works. This one goes all the way in, which means that's the right one. If you use the wrong screw, the threaded, coarse threaded one, you'll go in about, one thread, and then it locks up on you, and you end up turning the whole thing like cross-threaded, right? All right. So we know it's the thin, the fine threads. So we need 6 of them. So I'm going to grab 3. Let's see here. 4, 5, 6. All right. Cool. I got 6 screws. So first thing you want to do, see if I can show a better view here. All right. So you want to take another look to make sure all of these holes are lined up. You can see in good light, you can see underneath where they're at. Okay? Take your screw, line one of them up. What I usually do is line one up, and I don't tighten it totally, but I tighten it very, very loosely. And then I line up a second one, because if you get 2 of them lined up, the other ones are perfect. The other ones you have no problems with. So the second one I will do tight. There you go. Then tighten up that one. Then I can go back up here and do numbers 2, 3, or 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here's screw number 3, number 4, and I'll do these where I can see them. There's number 5, and finally number 6. So now we have all of the screws in place. I can literally pick this whole thing up by, I won't recommend that, but you know what I mean. All right, now the back fan. Look around, you'll find different things on there that say system fan or fan 1, fan 2. I can tell you that for the most part, it does not matter where you plug these in, but always make sure the CPU fan is in something called CPU fan, because if you plug this into it, when this gets hot, it'll turn off this fan for cooling, and it's not even on here. Okay, so just put it anywhere. I'm going to put mine right there. Oh, I should mention too, there is a way to put these on there where you can't screw up. It's hard to really show you, but do you see that? There's 4 pins, but only 3 here. but there's a little key right there where this fits. Okay, the reason it has a fourth one is for speed control. Some fans have speed control, and that fourth one right there is for that. So just make sure it lines up with that little key right there, that little square thing, just like this. You can't put it in there wrong. Okay, all right. So I'm going to readjust the camera and start doing some work on the inside. Okay, so this is a bit close up, but this is going to show you where the power supply goes, as well as the other plugs. So we've already talked about the front panel header and all of that, and the power button and all of that. So I'm going to put those on real quick. That is our USB, as you can see. That fits on one of these. This other one here is USB 3.0. In this case, 3.2, but it goes right there. Actually, I'm going to hook that up next. I want to hook these up first. All right, so reset switch goes on the bottom here. With a little practice, I mean, this is really easy. Let's see, hard drive, LED, positive to the left, goes next to it. Then the power switch right there can go on top, and like I say, it doesn't matter which way it goes because it's a switch. And this one here, positive goes this way. So I'm going to arrange it like that and try to squeeze it right in there like so. That gets a lot easier after you do it a few times. So there you go. And then lastly, we'll put this audio cable over here, like we mentioned. And now we can put this in here. One thing I'll tell you is be careful with these, because once they're in there, I've seen that rip the whole thing out. When you put this on, make sure you're ready to put it on, because if you put it on there just playing around and you try to pull it out, it can pull the whole socket out with it. These are very hard to get off. All right, so I'm going to put it in there. Good to go. All right. All right, now I'm going to actually do it like this. Now we can pull out. I forgot to put that USB in there, didn't I? All right, now we can undo the wire tie for this power supply. And this is really easy to do. You can't screw this up. You really can't. Okay? I'm going to explain what each of these wires do. All right? Let's go to the top camera and I'll show you. All right. So your power supply is going to have a whole bunch of wires on it. Okay, I'm going to explain each one. The most important one is, of course, the 24-pin connector. And it has 20 pins here, 4 pins here that are kind of attached. That is because the old school ones were 20 pins, so you could remove this if you only use the 20 pins. Now they're all 24 pins. Okay, sorry about that noise. All right, 24-pin connector. Then you have, and this is something to be careful about, you have some 8-pin connectors. They look very similar, right? Same color, same 8 pins. However, if you flip them over, you'll notice that one of them is 2 4-pins hooked together, and one of them is a 6-pin with a 2-pin hooked to it. In other words, it's removable. So watch, see? So, this PCI Express, PCIe, or 6+2, that is for a video card, okay? This CPU is supplemental power, CPU power, okay? And then lastly, on this particular case, you have SATA connections, which are for hard drives, things like that. There's SATA, like that. They have the flat thing with the one little dog leg right there. And then you also have Molex connectors, which are old school, but some fans and some other things still take these. Then you have a second one. Both of these are interchangeable, really. Either one's fine. Now, let's hook these up. First thing, 24 pin. You'll see that there's a little kind of like a little connector latch type thing right there. Release thing. If you push it, it sticks out. See? That connects here. And what I always do is I just feel for which side has a little ledge on it. This side's smooth. This one has a ledge. That's where that connects. So it goes this way. Now you can't put it on the wrong way. It just won't work. So you put it in there and snap it in place. Okay? Move that out the way. Now your CPU connection's right there. That is the one that says CPU, or most importantly, if it doesn't say CPU, it's 2 4-pin ones. Now, this is important. I have seen many times where there's just a 4-pin connector, and that goes in the first one here, okay? Like that, okay? Your computer will run with just the 4 pins. To be honest, I am not completely sure why and how important the second one is, but if you've got 8, you want to hope that you have a power supply that will support that. So 8 pins, same thing. Feel it wherever the little ledge is where this will grab on, which is on top in this case. Put it in there like that. Okay. Now, if you had a video card that would go here, if you had a video card, you could use this for that. But typically now you just kind of tuck everything else out of the way. All right. Lastly, and this is 18 different ways you can do this, but hard drive. Okay. Let me show you 2 examples and we'll be almost done. Okay, so there are different kinds of hard drives, and I won't go through everything, but in this case, you've got 2 different kinds. This actually is the same connector for these small ones or the larger ones, the 3.5 inch. This is 2.5 inch. It's an SSD, solid state drive. In other words, this is solid state. There's no moving parts. Same with this, but they're 2 different form factors. Okay, I don't recommend using anything except for solid state drives unless you need large storage, like secondary storage. Okay, so depending on your case that you're using and your motherboard, there's 2 different ways you can go with this. If you look right here, you will see a spot for this. And remember when we used the RAM to get that little notch in the right place? Well, this has a notch. You can kind of see it right there. So in other words, you can't put it in backwards. It won't allow you to fit it in there because right there. Okay? So you want to line that notch up, and it can just pop in like that. Okay? So on the other end, right here, you will see if I can angle it a little better. There you go. You'll see a little screw and a little fitting that you can move depending on the length of your SSD. I'm going to use this kind of SSD in this one. So I'm going to take that screw out. There we go. There's that screw. And then I'm going to put this in place like this. And I'm going to push it down. See if I can do it at an angle, look a little better. There you go. Line it up with that hole. And then you just put the screw back. There you go. So that's the hard drive, believe it or not. Now, in the case where you'd use one of these drives, that's when you would use one of these SATA connectors. And if you'll notice, that has the little dog leg right there. Match it up with this one, so it would go like that. Okay, and then most motherboards, new ones, will come with these. This is your SATA connector for hooking up hard drives or CD drives, optical drives, if you want to do that. All right, and that would go just like that on there. And then you would hook it to the board where you have some SATA connectors, and you'll see that you've got 4 right here. And typically you want to use the lower number for your main drive. Okay, so if this was the C drive, I would want, you've got 0, 1, 2, and 3. You'd want to put it in the first one. So again, with that little dog leg you can see there, it fits only one way, and it clicks in place, and that's it, you're done. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the Windows installation, nor am I going to go over getting these wires all straightened out, because you could kind of zip tie them or anything you like. And as far as the way this drive goes in here, there's manuals to these cases, but this particular case, it does have holes in the back here where you could pop this right here and use those fine screws from the back. These actually are fine screws, like the coarse and the fine ones that we just talked about. So that's how you do it. That's how you build a computer. And this is, of course, not the step by step all the way to the end, but this is to help you avoid the build problem. Issues with screws not being used, or standoffs being wrong, or putting a CPU in wrong, or hooking up wiring wrong. This will get you mostly past all of that. In the future, you're welcome to contact me via email. It's in my bio, and I can help you answer questions if you'd like, but this will give you an idea. Now, the next video I'm going to do is going to be a longer video, and it's going to be an Intel chipset, and it's going to be with a video card, liquid cooled, all of that. So it'll be a little bit more advanced and a little bit longer to go over the rest of the possibilities, or at least most of the contingencies that you may come up with in your build. Okay? All right, guys. Again, I always appreciate the support on my channel. Please do like, please do subscribe. Most importantly, turn a little bell on for notifications when I get a new one, new video uploaded. And I hope you enjoy the content. And I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We just hit 500, which is awesome. We're halfway there. So do subscribe. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a great day. Thank you.